Hi everyone, I'm FlygonHG, and this is the video of my attempts at a hardcore Nuzlocke Soul Link of Pokémon White. A Soul Link is a special two-player variant of a Nuzlocke where both players play through the same game simultaneously. In addition to standard Nuzlocke rules, in a Soul Link, encounters for both players on each route are linked, meaning that if one Pokémon dies, then so does the other. If one Pokémon falls to a silly critical hit, then so does the other. It's a perilous journey filled with double the risks, double the RNG, and double the chaos. A journey that should only be taken by the bravest of souls, or the dumbest of fools. Which brings me to my partner for this treacherous adventure, Twitch streamer Bloody. If you've never heard of Bloody, she's an awesome content creator that kicked my ass at a Heart Gold map randomizer and even made Small Ant sweat bullets in a race against him. Check her out, her stuff is linked in the description below. For our Soul Link, Bloody played on Pokémon Black, and I played on Pokémon White. Both games were separately randomized, the details of which you can check out in the description below if you care. But in short, wild Pokémon, trainer Pokémon, and field items were all randomized. And as with almost all of the challenges on my channel, we followed my definition of hardcore Nuzlocke rules. Namely, no using items in battle, no overleveling past the next gym leader's ace before the start of the battle, and we're playing on set mode. So together, Bloody and I were determined to defeat this randomized hardcore Soul Link. And along the way, throughout our many trials and tribulations, if we were lucky, we would forge a beautiful friendship. Let's get started. Our journey begins by choosing our starters, all of which have been randomized to 3-stage evolution lines. My choices are Budew, Venipede, and Aron. Bloody's are Pidove, Bulbasaur, and ironically enough, Trapinch. I go with Aron, and Bloody goes with Trapinch. We name them Peanut Butter and Jelly, and then we're off. Given the nature of this challenge, I can only focus on the broad strokes of our adventure, but if you want a more detailed breakdown of this challenge, you should definitely check out my highlights channel for even more Soul Link content. Anyways, we head off to Route 1 in search of our next pair of Pokémon. I get a normal flying bird, and Bloody gets a much bigger, more patriotic normal flying bird. We name them Chicken and Nugget. From Route 2, I get a Squirtle named Fast, and Bloody gets a Bibarel named Furious. Now the funny thing about randomizers is that there is virtually no difference between random trainers and major boss battles other than the size of their party and the level of their Pokémon, since pretty much any trainer can have any Pokémon. It means that we have to be paying attention to every single battle, so that we don't, lose our starters to a Meditite using Bide. Look, not everyone can be as great of a Nuzlocker as I am. I guess I'll just have to be strong enough to lift not one, but both of us.
I mean, isn't that Chimchar gonna evolve eventually? Or do they only keep their starters over time?
Okay. That's a problem.
What?
He crit me.
Oh.
So,
oh no.
I might be dead. I might be dead here. Alright, let's do a tackle.
That's not good. It's not really
He crit me again! Fast is dead.
Fast is dead?
Yeah.
Sandile.
Man. Ugh. Oh,
it's fine, we're fine.
Well,
so do you just go heal every time?
Yeah. There's a bit of a problem.
Are you gonna lose against
Probably.
the Shinx?
Yeah.
No way.
I mean, not the Shinx, but I'm intimidated, and now I have to fight.
Oh yeah, we don't
a
have another
Patrat.
Pokemon, huh?
Yep, I'm dead. Well, that's the game.
Oh, you're dead?
Yep.
Oh no! We have to start over?
Yep.
Oh.
Okay, well, I guess it's time for attempt 2. But we learned some valuable lessons. Well, not really, but we did bond over failure. In attempt 2, our starters are Jello the Porygon and Shots the Turtwig. On Route 1, Bloody gets Fish the Mantine and I get Chips the Clang. And on Route 2, I catch a Dewgong named Ben, paired with Bloody's Delcatty named Jerry. At a round where Bloody killed our starters in attempt 1, I run into a trainer with a Litwick, who woke up that morning and decided to be just the biggest piece of shit I've ever seen. In randomizers, Pokemon just have their level up movesets, meaning that at level 7, this little ghostly has minimized to raise his evasion and Fire Spin to trap me in and do residual damage. Thanks to some really unfortunate misses, Litwick is able to raise his evasion and beat down Jello to the point where I have to switch out once we're finally free from Fire Spin. This Litwick also resists both of Ben's attacking moves, so even when Ben manages to hit a move, it doesn't do much damage. By the time that Ben has fallen into the red, this satanic little gremlin is still kicking with about 1 HP. Chips is our last hope, though it's not great that they are weak to Fire Spin. Fortunately, we are able to connect with a Thundershock after a few turns, meaning that the only thing that I've lost to this fight is my sanity.
Indices start at 0. Yeah, this is attempt number 1. Yes.
Are you freaking kidding me? Guess what this trainer has? Gotta love randomizers. From the Dream Yard, we talk to the NPC that normally gives you one of the 3 elemental monkeys. Bloody gets a Dodrio, and I get a Salamence. Gotta love randomizers. For some horrible reason, we decided to name this pair of Pokemon Pride and Prejudice, and since Bloody called dibs on Pride, I get stuck with a Salamence named Prejudice. It's not a great look, but I'll take one for the team. Well, with the unstoppable power of Prejudice... Wait, let me rephrase that. With the unstoppable power of a Salamence named Prejudice, I felt pretty confident going into the first gym battle against Cress. In fact, it was a total walk in the park. He had a Smeargle and a Baltoy. I didn't actually even need to use my Salamence. I'm that good. Meanwhile, Bloody learned a hard lesson about early Dragon Rage. For those of you who don't know, Dragon Rage is a move that always does 40 damage, meaning that it's incredibly deadly in the early game if you happen to run into one of the select few Pokemon that can learn it, one of which is Gible. So sadly, once again, our starters fall. Now, it's very possible that had Bloody gone for 2 Razor Leafs here instead of 2 Tackles, that would have been enough damage to kill Gible before he decided to fire off a Dragon Rage and kill Jello Shots, but mistakes happen, and had Gible decided to just go for Dragon Rage turn 1, it wouldn't have really mattered. It's also worth noting here that this is only Bloody's 2nd Nuzlocke ever, so she's doing a great job. Remember, everyone makes mistakes, and all we can do is learn from them. Anyways, the rest of Bloody's battle goes smoothly enough, meaning that after roughly 2 hours of gameplay, we've gotten the first gym badge. Which means that it's time for more encounters. On Route 3, Bloody catches a Miltank named Cookies, and I catch a Whismur named Cream. In Wellspring Cave, I catch a Pidove named Fight, and Bloody catches a Primeape named Flight. Honestly, I'd be way more upset about these trash encounters if it wasn't for my freaking Salamence. Outside of Pinwheel Forest, I catch a Pachirisu, and Bloody catches a Xatu. I name my adorable little chipmunk Pinky, and Bloody names her Xatu the Brian. So now it's time for Lenora. She leads with Deerling, who gets eviscerated by my Salamence. Since I'm not really supposed to have a Salamence this early, his moveset is still pretty atrocious, but 2 bites are enough to take down Deerling, though she does manage to hit us with a Sand Attack. So when Lenora brings in her Combuskin, I decide to switch and give Fight a chance to shine, which was a mistake. Combuskin gets off a Focus Energy on the switch, and then he hits Fight with an Ember before she gets off the world's weakest Air Cutter. So I switch out to Pinky instead of Salamence for some reason, but it'll be fine. Pinky's got this, he's a world champ. He takes nothing from an Ember on the switch. Then we hit Combuskin with a Spark that causes a Paralysis before tanking a Double Kick that activates our held Oranberry. With that bit of recovery, Pinky should survive another Double Kick unless both hits manage to crit. Which is exactly what happens. Because of Focus Energy, the odds of Combuskin getting a double crit are the same odds as landing a single critical hit normally, so that one's on me, especially because there was no reason not to roast this chicken with Salamence. But to be honest, I don't spend too much time mourning the loss of Pinky and the Brian. Salamence is able to pretty easily take care of Combuskin with a few cuts, which I had to teach him since he's the only one of my Pokemon that can learn it. But with that, we've gotten the 2nd gym badge. In Pinwheel Forest, we pick up probably the strongest pair of Pokemon yet. Bloody gets a Slaking named Michael, and I catch a Hitmonlee named Ike, short for Eichel. Now we both have monstrous Hawaiian powerhouses on our team, though Bloody's does suffer from a bit of a weak work ethic. We've also both managed to randomly find fossils by this point, so with the power of science and the chaos of a randomizer, a Nacrene City Museum employee revives a Shelmet from my fossil named Crash, and a Magmortar from Bloody's fossil named Burn. These guys are over the current level cap though, so they have to go into the box for now. And since I don't really want to use a Shelmet, that's where they'll stay. Regardless, the fact that Bloody has a Slaking and I have a Salamence makes the fight against Berg pretty easy for both of us. Other than Berg's Poliwrath, that is, who actually does give me a lot of trouble. He manages to put my Salamence to sleep with Hypnosis, and the rest of my team is, how to put this gently, terrible? But against all odds, Fight, who has evolved into Tranquil, is able to finally take out Poliwrath with a combination of Air Cutter and Quick Attack. So, all things considered, it's a fairly easy battle for the 3rd gym badge. which means we can get even more encounters. From Route 4, I catch a Vanillite named Funnel, and Bloody catches a Mime Jr. named Cake. Since Funnel can't fully evolve until the very reasonable level of 48, this is a pretty lousy encounter, at least for me. In the Desert Resort, Bloody catches a Farfetch named Duck, and I catch a Stoutland named Hunt. That's obviously a great encounter for me, but bringing Hunt onto the team would mean strapping Bloody with Farfetch'd, since the encounters in our party have to match at all times. And I would never want to inconvenience my partner with a terrible Pokemon just so that I can have a big fluffy dog on my team.
I got a huge Pog.
Anything.
I got a freaking Arcanine.
Oh, great.
What?
It's a Mugcargo.
I mean, that's great.
No, it's not.
We both got fire types. Both got equally good fire types.
Yeah. Well, with 121.3 pounds of suck weighing me down, I drag myself to Nimbasa City, where it's time to take on Elisa for the 4th gym badge. Her first 2 Pokemon are pretty unremarkable and go down without much of a problem. But her 3rd Pokemon is also pretty unremarkable. I decide to let Flight have a crack at Cherim, because surely she should be able to beat this tiny flower in a 1v1. How much Petal Dance do here? God, Tranquil sucks! What a Pokemon. Holy crap. Holy freaking crap. Okay, I mean, Cherim did have a special defense boost because of Flower Gift, but Tranquil might be the worst Pokemon this side of the Mississippi. I can only hope that Bloody accidentally kills Flight so that I can bury this useless bird alive. Anyways, yet again, Salamence is easily able to come in and finish the job, netting us another Deathless Gym Badge. So, time for even more encounters. We previously skipped the encounters around Nimbasa City, so we do those first. On Route 16, I catch a Heatmore named Howl, and Bloody catches a Mightyena named Oats. Boxed. In Lostlorn Forest, I catch a Trapinch, who I name Bloody, and Bloody catches a Shellos named Flagon. Sadly, also boxed. Then, on Route 5, Bloody catches a Blitzel named Thunder, and I catch a Metatite named Thighs. Once they can both evolve, this will actually be a pretty great pair. But for now, they too are boxed. But then, on the Driftvale City drawbridge, I find a Sceptile, and Bloody finds a Gardevoir. Easily the best pair of encounters that we've had so far. We're gonna 1-ball HG this sucker.
No! It teleported!
Well, that's rough. Our consolation prize is that in the cold storage, Bloody gets a Frillish named Creepy, and I get a Whirlipede named Crawly. Maybe not as good as Sceptile and Gardevoir, but once they both evolve, this will be a pretty great pair. Ghost types tend to be phenomenal in randomizers because a lot of Pokemon just can't touch them with their level up movesets. The final encounter pair for now is on Route 6, where Bloody catches a Tirtuga and I catch a Lunatone.
Yeah, we can name them Moonblast.
Moonblast!
Is this something that you normally do?
Yeah.
Do you normally do that voice in Moonblast?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm gonna do an impeccable Flygon impersonation. You ready?
Okay.
Moonblast!
Oh. I think you need more Mickey Mouse in your voice. Like you can't just raise your pitch. You kind of have to have that like nasally like Pluto, you know, like that kind of thing. Like like I don't know how to explain it. So, you know.
Okay. Moonblast!
Wait, sorry. Go again. I wasn't listening.
Well, I thought that was a great one.
I just wasn't listening.
Moonblast!
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Sweet.
I like that. Yeah.
Really getting it.
Yeah. I should open a school.
And with that, it's time for the showdown against Clay. Creepy and Crawly have replaced Ben and Jerry, but other than that, the teams remain the same for now. Clay ends up being probably the biggest pushover so far. His first 2 Pokemon randomize into Bulbasaur and Scraggy. Bulbasaur is a clean knockout with a single return, so that's not a problem. Scraggy does manage to survive a return and get off a Swagger into Salamence. So, not wanting to hit myself in confusion, I switch to Crawly, who has fully evolved into Scolipede, easily one of the coolest bug Pokemon. He tanks a payback no problem, and then a Bug Bite finishes off Scraggy. So, all that's left is whatever Clay's terrifying Excadrill got randomized into. Well, Chips is able to come in and pretty easily kill Shuckle with a few gear grinds, But in doing so, I violated the #1 rule in Pokemon. I f***ed with Shuckle. And as is stated in the sacred text, I will have to suffer the consequences. It might not be today, it might not be tomorrow, it might not even be the day after that. But my fate has been sealed, and one day soon, I will pay for f***ing with Shuckle. But for now, we've gotten the 5th gym badge. Now, up until this point, I wouldn't begrudge you for wondering how this randomizer is even remotely difficult. We have some of the strongest Pokemon in the game on our team, and our opponents have largely had a rotating roster of Pipsqueaks. But from here on out, the game is going to get pretty difficult, because our randomizer has been set to fully evolve every Pokemon at level 30. This means that every single trainer is a potential threat, and danger lurks around every corner. Or at least danger will lurk around every corner once the trainer's Pokemon are above level 30. The folks in Chargestone Cave are still slightly below level 30, so we can still relax for a little bit before Fit hits the Sham. While we're here, I catch a Pikachu named Shock, and Bloody catches a Milotic named Awe. Great. At the end of Chargestone Cave, I have to face off against N, who has an incredibly deadly team comprised of Mothim, Mime Jr., Clink, and Clamperl. I promise the fully evolved teams are just around the river bend. I contemplate leaving Hamburger in against Clamperl to free myself of this horrible burden, but that would leave Bloody without Arcanine, and she's already going through it on her end. Because instead of Mothim, her end leads with a Wobbuffet. Probably the most deadly thing you can run into in a randomizer.
Wobbuffet's scary. Okay, I attacked first. Feint attack. Cool. Can I one-shot? Oh, I did not one-shot. Wobbuffet used counter. Oh, no!
Oh my god, are you gonna die?
No!
Oh my god. That'll do it.
I'll mention a couple things here. Assuming Return is at max power, which it should be at this point, Return with Stab does much more damage than super effective Feint Attack, so that might have actually gotten the kill on Wobbuffet. But more importantly, in this situation, the correct play is to always go for Yawn with Michael so that the Wobbuffet falls asleep and can't use counter. So that was a bit of an oopsies, but that's how you learn. And losing a Pokemon to a Wobbuffet in a Nuzlocke is sort of a rite of passage anyways. RIP Michael and Eichel, you were the best of us. Thunder Thighs replaces Michael and Eichel as we get the last few encounters before Skyla. From Route 7, I find a Seedot. Let's cut to Bloody's live reaction of her encounter, because it's going to be important later.
Okay, let's see. What Pokemon do I get? A Granbull. Okay, well, I'm glad it wasn't super good, so you're not forced to have Seedot.
We named this pair D's Nuts, because deep down we're just two immature children. Well, honestly, it's not even that deep down. In Celestial Tower, Bloody catches a Sawsbuck named Forest, and I catch a Sudowoodo named Gump. That's not a terrible pair of encounters, but we're just going to stick with what we've got as we go to take on Skyla. And she's pretty underwhelming. Her team of Swellow, Garbodor, and Jinx are easily dispatched, so there's no reason to spend much time here. To be honest, some of the fights in Celestial Tower against random trainers were way harder than this battle, but that's sorta how randomizers tend to shake out. Unlike Skyla though, Charon has become a bit of a problem for me. Since his Pokemon have now fully evolved, his starter Dratini is now a full-fledged Dragonite. By this point though, I fought Charon approximately 800 times, so at least I know what to expect. But that doesn't help much if Hamburger decides to be utterly unhelpful the one time I give him a chance to shine. Because of Dragon Rage, I have to switch, so I go to Fight, who remains useless despite having fully evolved. She does tank a Dragon Tail though, which brings in Crawley. We're able to hit Dragonite with a Poison Jab as he goes for Agility, though some of that damage is recovered from the held leftovers that Charon randomly has here. Dragonite now outspeeds to hit a Dragon Rage before another Poison Jab brings him into the yellow. After leftovers brings Dragonite back to just over 50%, I switch to Salamence, which is a little risky, but at the very least we get off an Intimidate. I get really lucky here that Dragon Tail misses. It definitely wouldn't have killed Salamence without the crit, but because he missed, it means that we're able to stay in. Dragonite hits a Dragon Rage on the next turn, so Salamence is able to fire off a Rock Slide, which leaves Dragonite with its Sliver. Charon doesn't heal, and instead just goes for another Dragon Rage, so by the slimmest of margins, we're able to take him out with a Dragon Breath and win the 79th fight against Charon. But that was pretty close. Charon gives us the TM for Surf here, so we're able to backtrack and get a few encounters from around the map. In Driftvale City, we find a Castform and a Kirlia. I guess I slightly underestimated Fight here, because a Quick Attack one-shots the Castform, robbing Bloody of her second chance at a Gardevoir. Oh well. On Route 17, Bloody catches a Vaporeon named Wet, and I catch a Totodile named Wild. We skipped the P2 laboratory encounter because I didn't know it was a separate encounter location, but on Route 18, I catch a Darmanitan named Bed, and Bloody catches a huge power Azumarill named Breakfast. That's 2 back-to-back really solid pairs, though Bloody is now swimming in water types. Then we head to Mistralton Cave, where I catch a prototype of Quaxley named Birds, and Bloody finds a Joltik named the Bees. I just know that at some point I'm gonna get stuck with 2 shitty birds, aren't I? On our way through Twist Mountain, Bloody accidentally crit kills a wild Poliwhirl before I can even find an encounter that isn't a dupe. So, no Twist Mountain encounter. But once we've made it through in one piece, we get to Iciris City. There, Bloody gets an Aggron named Kevin Hart, and I catch a Burmy named The Rock. Gotta love evenly powered encounters. From outside of Dragon Spiral Tower, I catch a Delibird named Naughty, and Bloody catches a Glameow named Nice. Somehow, this randomizer continues to one-up itself by giving me progressively shittier birds. On Route 8, I catch a Gulpin named Upset, and Bloody catches a Charmeleon named Tummy. And then in the Moor of Iciris, I catch a Leavanny named Poison, and Bloody catches a Toxicroak named Ivy. Those are all the encounters available before it's time to take on Bryson's gym trainers. And here's where Bloody learns about yet another Nuzlocke threat, Arena Trap Dugtrio. Between Bide on Meditite, Shadow Tag Wobbuffet, and now Arena Trap Dugtrio, she's really getting a crash course on what to avoid in Nuzlockes. Here's another thing you should avoid in Nuzlockes: 95% accurate attacks. I mean, in a way, it's reassuring to see that I'm not the only person that gets unlucky sometimes, but a critical hit into a 95% accurate miss is pretty rough to see. With hindsight, knowing that Dugtrio had no way to one-shot Hot Doggo, the right play was to double Extreme Speed. But that's a pretty niche out. And even if I tried, I couldn't care less about losing Hamburger, so really I should be thanking Dugtrio here. With the death of our beloved Hot Doggo, and also the other one, we decide to restructure our team a bit as we head into the fight against Bryson. I can't say I love having upset the Swalot, but relationships are about compromise. So if Bloody wants to fill the Arcanine-shaped hole in her heart with another Gen 1 fire type, then who am I to stop her? Bryson leads with Torterra, who has a pretty bad matchup into my go-to lead, especially after the Intimidate drop. 2 Dragon Breaths, combined with Rocky Helmet Chip from Torterra's subsequent bites, are enough to bring Torterra down to a sliver. So Bryson heals with a Hyper Potion. He then also connects with a Leech Seed, meaning that this could start to get pretty annoying pretty quickly. So I switch out to Upset. With Held Black Sludge, he tanks a bite no problem. I also taught him Ice Beam, so Torterra goes down pretty easily. Relicanth is second for Bryson. But it's at this exact moment in Bloody's battle against Bryson that she finds herself staring down a Mr. Mime with Ivy the Toxicroak. Mr. Mime has pretty terrible physical defense, so it's somewhat surprising that he manages to survive a Sucker Punch with a Sliver, but it does mean that Ivy is very, very dead. This means that Poison is also dead, but I do get to keep using her until the end of the battle. So, at the very least, we can give her a warrior send-off. She comes in and dodges a Rock Tomb, letting her kill Relicanth with a Leaf Blade. Bryson's last Pokemon is Bayonet, so we hit him with a Shadow Claw that puts him in the yellow. Bayonet then retaliates with a Will-O-Wisp, but even with the burn, Poison is able to take out Bayonet with a second Shadow Claw on her last turn alive, winning us the battle and getting us the 7th Gym Badge. From here, we have to head to Dragon Spiral Tower to stop Team Plasma. And now that every single grunt has fully evolved randomized Pokemon, we really get put through the ringer here. But everything ends up working out fine. Someone that's been completely absent from this playthrough so far is Bianca, and it's not from a lack of effort on her part. Like with Cheren, we've had to fight her like 65 times, but battle number 66 on Route 8 is where she really starts to turn up the heat. She starts with a Weezing, and I'm leading with Thighs. I go for a Thunder Punch for basically no damage, and then Weezing hits a Clear Smog for even less damage. Then I switch to Chips, who is immune to a Sludge. Weezing then decides to just self-destruct, but with the help of an Eviolite, Chips tanks that no problem. This brings in Octillery. I start by hitting her with a Charge Beam, which doesn't do much, but does give us a special attack boost. Octillery then uses Focus Energy, which is pretty scary given that she likely has Sniper, an ability that makes critical hits do triple damage instead of double. I decide to stay in and hit another Charge Beam, which brings the dangerous Calamari into the yellow and also gives me another boost, but then Octillery hits an Octazooka, which does indeed crit. So Chips falls. I didn't realize until a bit later in this battle that it's also raining on this route, so a rain-boosted, sniper-boosted, critical hit Octazooka has just massive damage output. I guess I could have switched to Wild the Feraligatr, who resists the Octazooka, but I don't even know what he would have done once he was out. Rough all around. RIP Fish and Chips. Thighs is able to revenge kill Octillery with a Thunder Punch, so next is Carnivine. I hit her with a Poison Jab, which leaves her in the red, but she just goes for a stockpile. Bianca uses up a full restore here, so a second Poison Jab just brings her into the yellow and also manages to poison. And then one final Poison Jab seals the deal. So last is Clefable, which is a pretty ideal matchup for Thighs. We hit her with a Force Palm, which leaves her with what appears to be nearly 1 HP, letting her get off a Minimize. Bianca then heals, and we miss a Force Palm. Okay, well I go for a Poison Jab since another Force Palm won't kill, and I don't want to trigger another heal, but that misses too, letting Clefable get off another Minimize. I switch back to Force Palm, which fortunately connects, leaving her with a pesky Sliver, but also getting the Paralysis. Clefable does break through the full Paralysis and use another Minimize though. Side note here, I had no idea until reviewing this footage that starting in Generation 5, Minimize increases evasion by 2 stages. I don't know how I never knew that, but that's completely ridiculous. It means that Clefable is now at +6 evasion, so on the next turn we obviously miss another Force Palm. Clefable now goes on the offensive with Metronome, which pulls Bubble Beam, which is boosted by the rain and therefore does a good chunk of damage. That's a pretty solid Metronome pull, but not as solid as pulling Mother Freaking Hyper Beam on the next turn. Well, that sucked. Fortunately, Wild is able to connect with a Waterfall on the next turn and win us the battle, so Bianca managed to only kill 2 of my Pokemon. Maybe I could have played the Octillery better, but that Clefable was some high-quality premium bullshit. That's randomizers for you, though. After licking our wounds and putting our shattered team back together, we head to Route 9 to catch a new pair of encounters, and they turn out to be pretty damn good. Honestly, we could use a win here, since we've gone from 3 deaths to 7 deaths in a single stream. I catch a Starmie named Like, and Bloody catches a Conkeldurr named Subscribe. A bit on the nose, but whatever. We bring Like and Subscribe onto the team, and then we head into the 8th and final gym. But there are still a bunch of mandatory gym trainers before we're able to take on Drayden and Iris. Oh hey, look, Bloody's fighting a Granbull. Let's see how that goes.
Granbull's got high physical defense. It's Thunder.
Okay.
Oh! Whoa! Ah! Are you f***ing kidding me? Okay, well, I'm glad it wasn't super good. Glad it wasn't super good. Glad it wasn't super good. Glad it wasn't super good.
Respect the dog, Bloody. Respect the dog. Okay, well, make that going from 3 deaths to 8 deaths in a single stream. Let's hope that our fight against Drayden and Iris go okay. Things start out well enough with Iris leading Butterfree. Surprisingly, my giant dragon isn't able to kill Iris's tiny butterfly with a single return, but that actually ends up being fine because she just sets up a Tailwind. And then Iris wastes both of her Hyper Potions, meaning that by the time that Butterfree does go down to a fly from Salamence, her Tailwind has expired and we've taken 0 damage. Though Butterfree was able to set up a safeguard, I guess. Iris brings in Heracross next, so that's pretty chill since we easily kill her with another fly. Meaning that last for Iris is Porygon Z, which is a really terrifying Pokemon, though at least they don't have a stab move at this level. I hit them with a return for almost 50% and then take a huge chunk from Discharge. We're dead to a crit here, and I'm not interested in risking the Pokemon that has basically carried me throughout this entire run. So I switch to Upset as Porygon Z goes for an Embargo. Then Porygon Z uses Magnet Rise, so Upset is able to get off a Toxic for free. This puts Porygon Z on a timer in case he starts firing off critical hits. Well, would you look at that? Unfortunately, Sludge Bomb and Toxic damage leave PZ with a Sliver. So I switch to Crawly, who tanks one last Discharge before PZ succumbs to Toxic damage. That wins us the 8th and final gym badge. That just leaves a few mandatory fights before it's time to face the Elite Four. Victory Road in Black and White is much shorter and much easier than in Black 2 and White 2. Believe it or not, we make it through without any problems. We also get a chance at 2 more encounters. On Route 10, I find another Salamence. Stupid species clause. Okay, I find a Cherub. Yay! But Bloody accidentally kills the Sharpedo she finds, so I can't catch Cherub. Oh no. In Victory Road, I find a Tangela, and Bloody finds a Pawniard. Not a bad final pair of encounters. Because it's our last encounters of the game, I flippantly use my Master Ball to catch Tangela, because why not? There's literally no downside. We named this dynamic duo Mac and Cheese, but they just head into the box. Which means it's time to build our final team and take on the Elite Four. After some back and forth, we settled on these 6 pairs, all leveled up to level 50 to match the aces of the Elite Four members. We have Pride and Prejudice, Creepy Crawly, Forest Gump, Like and Subscribe, Bed and Breakfast, and Upset Tummy. These 6 pairs give both of our teams a decent amount of coverage so that we're hopefully ready for whatever randomized threats come our way. Let's see if we've got what it takes. We start with Chantelle. She leads with Donphan and I lead with Salamence. I hit Donphan with a Dragon Breath, which ends up critting and putting her in the yellow. Then she just hits a Scary Face. Chantelle uses a full restore, so it's time for some more Dragon Breaths, but at this level, Donphan can only hit my Flying Dragon with Fury Attack and Assurance. So it's pretty safe to stay in and take Donphan out with a few more Dragon Breaths. Golem comes in next, but this beefy lady has a moveset of Earthquake, Stealth Rock, Bulldoze, and Self-Destruct, meaning that the only thing she can do to Salamence is set up Stealth Rocks or go boom. So I switch to Gump, as she does indeed set up Stealth Rock. Then I switch back to Prejudice on an Earthquake, which is kind of annoying because he takes 25% from the Stealth Rocks, but at least he's immune to Earthquake. Now Golem has to go for Self-Destruct. So I switch to Gump, who manages to tank a Self-Destruct, even though it crits. That brings in Raichu, who will actually do pretty gross damage into my entire team with Thunderbolt. For example, Upset gets hit hard by a Thunderbolt on the switch, especially after Stealth Rock Chip. The paralysis here sucks too. But we've got another more pressing issue. Namely, Bloody is staring down a Gardevoir that's managed to set up a Calm Mind in front of Creepy. Gardevoir goes for an Imprison on the next turn, which would have given Bloody a safe switch, but there was no way to know that that's what she would go for. Instead, Creepy just hits another Soft Ominous Wind. Gardevoir then goes for a Monstrous Psychic that leaves Creepy with just 3 HP, letting Creepy fire off a third Ominous Wind that leaves her in the red. But this also lets Bloody switch in Forest as Chantelle heals with a full restore. Forest has a Choice Band, so hopefully she's able to one-shot Gardevoir here. But unfortunately, a Feint Attack doesn't quite do it. A Return might have, since 102 base power Stab does quite a bit more damage than super effective 60 base power, but oh well. Mistakes were made, and Forest goes down. But for what it's worth, even if Forest had survived, I'm pretty sure I would have needed to make a sack to deal with this Raichu anyways. With Gump dead at the end of this battle, I can just use him as a safe switch to bring in Bed. These Stealth Rocks kinda suck. Raichu decides to throw by going for a Tail Whip, so we're able to easily kill her with a Fire Punch, but not before getting paralyzed by Static. Miss Magius is last for Chantelle, but she has a horrendous level up moveset, so it's perfectly safe to stay in and hit her with a Fire Punch, though it does end up missing out on the kill because she used Growl. So Chantelle heals, and then Miss Magius goes down to 2 more Fire Punches, winning us the battle. Next up is Marshall. He leads with a Floatzel. The worst thing that he can do to Prejudice is Crunch, so a few returns take him out, though Marshall does manage to heal with a full restore once. Second is Marowak, so I switch to Like, who gets hit by a Thrash. Then a Surf knocks out the poor little orphan. Third is Scrafty, which is a Pokemon that is always a massive pain to deal with in randomizers. The combination of Fighting and Dark-type Stab has really good coverage, so playing around critical hits is tough. I switch to Upset, who gets hit by a Scary Face. We then get hit by a Crunch, which would be fine if it weren't for the defense drop. We also connect with a Toxic that instantly gets healed by Scrafty's Shed Skin, so that was a misplay. We fortunately tank a non-critical hit Crunch on the next turn and get off a pretty soft Sludge Bomb. I switch to Crawly next, who appears to be able to barely survive 2 Crunches as long as they don't crit. After stalling for a turn with Protect, because why not, we go for Mega Horn, which leaves Scrafty in the red, letting her get off another Scary Face. So I switch to Prejudice to get off an Intimidate as Marshall uses another full restore. Then I go for a Fly. This thankfully connects on the next turn, but Scrafty is bulky enough to survive in the red. So we do get hit by a Scary Face, meaning that we need to tank another Crunch, which crits. But we thankfully survive and kill Scrafty. So last is Hariyama. I guess Marshall still wanted to be predominantly a fighting type trainer here. I switch to Like on a Force Palm, which generously doesn't paralyze. Then I go for a Recover in case Hariyama gets a critical hit with another Force Palm, which he does. But since there was no paralysis, it appears to be safe to hit a Psyshock that unsurprisingly does not get the one-shot. Somehow we manage to dodge yet another paralysis from Force Palm, so from here, it's safe to take out Hariyama. Though it does require an extra turn because he uses Endure to survive with 1 HP. That's 2 Elite Four members down. Third is Grimsley. He starts with a Xatu, and I've switched to leading with Bed. Xatu uses Future Sight, and then a Fire Punch just barely misses out on the one-shot. My enemy's Pokemon surviving with a Sliver is starting to get really old. Fortunately, a second Fire Punch, after a full restore, high rolls and takes out Xatu in one shot. This brings in Infernape next, who is pretty scary. I switch to Prejudice, who gets off an Intimidate and shrugs off a close combat. But then a Future Sight hits hard and brings Salamence into the yellow. Infernape will likely outspeed, and a crit from close combat probably kills. His moveset is Fire Spin, Close Combat, Feint, and Punishment. According to Cerebi, Punishment is a Dark-type move that has a base power of 1, but increases by 20 for every stat boost the opposing Pokemon has. Turns out that is not true at all, because Like almost dies to a critical hit Punishment on the Switch. Punishment's base power is actually 60, not 1. Always double check your sources, kids. Misplays as a result of misinformation always put me in a pretty bad mood, but fortunately that wasn't the end of the world. I can switch to Crawley, who tanks another close combat, which happens to trigger Poison Point. Then we're able to outspeed and kill Infernape with a critical hit Poison Jab, though I think even a non-crit would have killed thanks to the defense drops from close combat. Next is Stantler, so I stay in and miss a Mega Horn as Stantler uses Calm Mind. So I switch to Steamroller, which leaves the horse in the yellow as he goes for yet another Calm Mind. So one more Steamroller takes him out. Stantler did have Zen Headbutt there, so maybe that was a bit reckless. The last for Grimsley is Dusknoir. I switch to Upset, who gets hit by a Will-O-Wisp, but that's fine because I'm able to Encore Dusknoir on the next turn. This lets me Toxic Dusknoir as he just helplessly uses Will-O-Wisp. Then I switch to Bed, who's obviously immune to Will-O-Wisp, but the Encore does end the turn I switch in. It was probably safer to stay in with Upset and get off another Encore before switching, but a Fire Punch does really good damage as Dusknoir just uses Mean Look. Toxic damage obviously leaves Dusknoir with a Sliver, so Grimsley heals, but a Fire Punch plus an Overkill Flare Blitz are enough to finish him off and win us the battle. That means that Caitlyn is the final Elite Four member. She starts with a Gorbis, and I've decided to lead with Like this time. A Psyshock does annoyingly little damage as Gorbis retaliates with an Aqua Tail. Another Psyshock puts her in the red as she goes for Dive. So I go for Recover to get back to full HP before tanking the dive. Caitlyn heals here, so I spend far more turns than I'd like to Psyshocking this stupid fish. Caitlyn actually heals again, which is more annoying than anything else. But with a well-timed Recover, we're able to finally take out the dumb fish at almost full HP. Conkeldurr is second, so we just keep Psyshocking. Well, to save PP, I actually finish him off with a Surf, as Conkeldurr is only able to get off a single Scary Face. Third is Mr. Mime. Thanks to the Scary Face, she outspeeds and hits a Psychic, but then a Surf does over 50%. So after tanking another Psychic, which gets the special defense drop, Light kills her with a second Surf. Last is Hitmonlee, whose only attacking move at this level is Blaze Kick. So I switch to Bed, who resists the attack. Then we outspeed and kill Hitmonlee with a single Fire Punch, winning us the battle. With that, the Elite Four has been defeated, and it's time for the climactic confrontation against Team Plasma. Fortunately, in the recesses of N's castle is a PC that lets you swap out your party, as well as an NPC that will let you teleport to the Pokemon League if you want to do more training. So, we use this opportunity to bring Mac and Cheese onto the team to replace the now deceased Forrest Gump. We also decided to level up our Pokemon to level 52 to match N's level cap. At level 52, we'll still be a little underleveled for the fight against Ghetsis, since both of those battles are back-to-back. As we approach N, I'm reminded that in Pokemon White, before fighting N, you have to catch Zekrom for story purposes. Killing them isn't allowed. So it was pretty stupid to waste my Master Ball on Mac. Now, Zekrom does get randomized into a Registeel, but they still have a pretty low catch rate. Fortunately, and as those of you who watch my highlights channel already know, I'm known in these parts as Old One Ball HG. There ain't never been a Pokemon I can't catch with a single ball. Sketchy. All right, the true test of One Ball HG. Here we go. We're gonna quick ball this mother sucker. We're gonna quick ball. Come on. Come on, Registeel. Are you kidding me? 1 ball HG! Woo! Never punished! In the interest of full transparency, the catch rate is slightly modified in the randomizer to make it a little easier to catch fully evolved Pokemon, but I still think this is pretty impressive. Not to toot my own horn or anything. Fortunately, Bloody retained her Master Ball, so after dumping our 2 legendaries into the box, it's time to face down N. With our arms outstretched across the multiverse, hands clasped to symbolize the eternal bond of friendship, we prepare for the final 2 battles of the Soul Link. N comes in hot with a Rayquaza, which appears to be what his Reshiram was randomized to. That thing is stupid strong, but at the very least they sport a ×4 ice weakness. So I bring in Like, who mercifully survives an Air Slash. And then we outspeed and snipe them down with a single Frozen Blast. Next is Raiku. I'm not sure what randomized to a second legendary here, but whatever. Fortunately, Raiku's moveset is all physical at this level, so Mac is able to pretty easily wall them, especially with Rocky Helmet Chip. A second Crunch does obviously get a defense drop, but Mac is able to hang on and take out Raiku with a few energy balls. That brings in Muck third. I switch to Upset on a Sludge Bomb, most of which is recovered with Black Sludge. Then I hit him with an Ice Beam, which does very little damage. But Muck now uses Acid Armor, so we're free to nullify him with Encore. I can go into Like, but their only Psychic type attack is Psyshock, which does damage based on the defense of the opposing Pokemon. This does let me recover for free though, as Muck's Encore ends. We can then hit him with a decently strong Surf as he goes for Screech. But since Muck doesn't have a physical move at this level, I stay in and nail him with another Surf. As I should come to expect by now, Muck survives with a Sliver and also gets off a Sludge Wave that manages to poison Like. So, and heals as we get off one more Surf before it's time to switch out. It's back to Upset. With Black Sludge, we should have the advantage here, even if N decides to heal again. We actually end up freezing Muck with one of our Ice Beams, and N chooses not to heal a second time, so Upset takes Muck out at full HP. Jolteon comes out next, but this is now N's second strong special attacking electric type that has a fully physical moveset. So Upset is able to pretty easily take him out with a few Sludge Bombs and toxic damage, without taking much damage in return. Fifth is Triagonal. They set up a Reflect, which Upset locks them into with Encore. Then we hit a Sludge Bomb, which does very little damage, but does manage to get the poison. On the next turn I switch to Bed, and then, after Triagonal takes some poison damage and attempts one last useless Reflect, a Fire Punch finishes them off. That just leaves N's last Pokemon, literally a pile of garbage. We stay in and hit a Fire Punch, which activates Garbodor's weak armor. A Sludge Bomb does decent damage, and Bed is now dead to a critical hit since Garbodor will now outspeed. So I bring in Upset, who yet again walls his opponent pretty easily. Upset was low-key phenomenal into N's team. Who would have thought? A few more Ice Beams is all it takes to finish off N's sentient trash can and win us the battle. But we do have to hold off on the celebrations, because Bloody is having a pretty tough time. In her fight against N, his Zekrom randomized into Reshiram, which is frankly just an incredibly difficult Pokemon to deal with. Fire Dragon is a phenomenal typing, and Reshiram hits so hard that unless you have a Pokemon that can outspeed and one-shot them, you're gonna be in for a rough go. Bloody doesn't really have anything that can hit them for super effective damage, and nothing on her team resists both Fusion Flare and Dragon Breath. So she's in a position where all of her Pokemon deal very little damage to Reshiram, who can retaliate with way more damage in return. And N can heal. It's pretty bleak and a pretty unfortunate randomization. I think my team would struggle to handle Reshiram as well. In hindsight, we should have considered how our teams match up into the more powerful legendaries, since N was always guaranteed to have one of them. But at this point, try as we might, there's not much that can be done. So let's just cut to the bad news. Reshiram single-handedly sweeps Bloody's entire team. If you want to see how it broke down in more detail, that's Bloody's story to tell, and you can check it out in the video from her point of view on her channel. But sadly, this does mean that mere steps from the very end of the game, we've lost the Soul Link. In an effort to not end on a sour note though, I decide that I might as well try to beat the crap out of Getsis. He leads with Hitmonchan as Mac comes in, fully healed. I switch to Like on a Fire Punch, which crits. Then Hitmonchan goes for Detect, so our attack is blocked. But after that, a Psyshock gets the one-shot. Nidoking comes out next, which is nice because a Surf just cleanly knocks him out. Thanks, Getsis. Third is Tentacruel, so Like is just kinda going on a murder spree. Fourth is Walrein, who can't do much to Like. Psyshock manages to crit on the next turn for about 50% as we shrug off an Ice Fang. We then both heal, like with Recover and Walrein with Rest. So I switch to Mac on Walrein's first turn of snoozing, though he does use Snore for a bit of damage. Then, on the second turn, we hit him with an Energy Ball. Walrein's scheduled to wake up on the next turn, so I switch to Bed. She's able to dodge a Blizzard, meaning that she's sitting pretty at full HP, and we kill Walrein with a Superpower. Fifth is Metagross, which is decently scary, especially since my attack and defense were dropped by Superpower. So it's back to like as Metagross goes for Agility. A Meteor Mash hits hard, but so does a Surf. Metagross then misses a second Meteor Mash, letting us fire off a second Surf. So after tanking one more Meteor Mash, Like finishes off Ghetsis' ace. I suppose that could have gone pretty bad had Metagross crit one of those mashes, but now all that's left is Gallade. So I stay in and go for Recover. Gallade hits a soft feint, but it's fine. His moveset is pretty underwhelming at this level, so I really don't need to be all that clever about how I do this. With some recovers to stay healthy, a few Surfs and Psyshocks are more than enough to eventually take out Gallade after Ghetsis has finished using full restores. So, at long last, we've conquered the final boss fight and finished the run. Except not really. Fortunately, the entire point of doing a Soul Link is to have fun, and we certainly did do that. More than any other main channel video, I'd really recommend checking out the highlights of this playthrough on my highlights channel, FlygonHG Highlights. My editors did an amazing job with those videos, and you get to see a bit more of how Bloody and I bounced off each other during our adventures. And of course, you should also check out Bloody's video of our playthrough on her channel. She also took another stab at N and Ghetsis, but I don't want to spoil that for those of you who want to check it out. Bloody is just a genuinely sweet and wholesome person, and it really was a blast getting to do this with her. Hopefully the next time we do a collab, we don't crash and burn at the end. Definitely do let me know what other types of collaborations you want to see. And as always, if you enjoyed watching, it'd be great if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. Or don't, I don't know. But I do know that you should follow me on Twitter and Twitch to keep up with streams of my future challenges. And as I mentioned before, you should also subscribe to my highlights channel to get highlights of the challenge I'm currently streaming before it's cut down to a video on the main channel. And be sure to join the FlygonHG community Discord where you can discuss Nuzlocking and contribute to future challenges. The links to everything, including Bloody's channel and her video, are in the description below. Stay tuned for more Nuzlocke videos, and until then, remember to always, always, always play around the critical hit.